welcome to Barbatus Catholic Podcast, the show where three Mexican dads talk about faith, life, and culture. We are your hosts,
Gustavo,
Ivan,
and Walter, and today we are going to talk about the second pillar of Lent, fasting. But first, a word from our sponsor. Our sponsor for this episode is Don Taco Mobile Taco Stand. If you're looking for the best tacos in the valley, look no further. Let Don Taco cater your next event, whether it's a birthday party, quinceañera, or a wedding. They will bring to you the tastiest tacos made with the freshest of ingredients. Book them today. Go to dontacocatering.com to learn more. You can also follow them on Instagram at dontacomts. And now, to the show. And we're back. Hi, welcome again to Barbatus Catholic Podcast. And you will not believe what just happened today.
I'm a witness.
We were laughing so hard just a few minutes ago because we finished setting up for this recording session. And Gustavo
got a little hot. It got a little toasty.
And
We're no longer in the boiler room.
We're no longer in the boiler room. Where our knees are not touching.
Our knees are not touching. I think
Yeah.
my knees were a little bit too rough for Walter, and he's like, that's not going to work.
We expanded into Walter's garage.
Yeah, so now my car is sitting outside and we set it up in the garage. So hopefully this is better. We also got new equipment, which is hopefully improves the quality of what you are listening to. But Gustavo was wearing a sweatshirt and all of a sudden he's like, oh, it's a little toasty in the garage now. So he takes off his sweatshirt and we are wearing the same t-shirt, which we'll probably have to take a picture and post it with the
we'll
show
do
notes
that.
for this. We're wearing the same,
Because people will think that we're making this stuff up and we're lying.
that
But
we are the same
seriously,
person.
it's happens like all the time.
And welcome to this episode. Before we talk about fasting, I'm reading this book called Thank God Ahead of Time, and I think I mentioned in one of the previous episodes about the life of Solanus Casey. And when he was in Detroit in St. Bonaventure, he was a porter. So a lot of people would go because of these healings that were attributed to him. Technically, what he would do is he would enroll them in the Seraphic Mass Association and ask whoever was requesting the favor from God to do something specific, tangible. So he would do that for people that would come to the monastery and ask for those intercessions. And then people would go back to report on answered prayers. So I don't remember the specific person who was coming back, but something good had happened. And Solanus Casey opens the bottom drawer of his desk and pulls out 2 ice cream cones,
Oh my God.
like in perfect state. And I think it was Brother Francis Spruck, who was the other brother that was with Solanus in St. Bonaventure, that somebody had brought him ice cream like an hour prior. And he was like, this calls for a celebration. And intact, not
What
melty
the heck?
ice cream an hour later. And I was talking to the other buddy. It's like, those are the kind of things that you're like, I don't know. Like, is it a miracle? Like, that ice cream doesn't melt at the same rate? Like, how cold was St. Bonaventure? It was Detroit. Was it February? All those kind of things. But, if you look at it with eyes of faith.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, if you think about it, it gets pretty chilly. And if he was right there in front of the door, that could play a part in it. But still, intact.
I know.
That
wouldn't happen here in Phoenix.
Oh, no.
For
It would be
It would be like,
a
nope.
milkshake immediately.
Like soup.
Like soup.
Here's a melty cone.
Yep.
Vanilla gazpacho.
Yeah.
Vanilla gazpacho. Something that is not gazpacho is what we are drinking right now.
Mm-mm.
It's a little bit too late for coffee. But I got a new hobby. I started roasting my own coffee. So soon you will see Barbatus Coffee Company. Just kidding, but maybe. Who knows?
I fully support your
I fully
your
support
hobby.
it as well.
Just
This is
you know.
really, really good coffee, by the way. Again,
Yeah, but some people put cream in it.
I have to put cream in my coffee. I especially when it's like 8:00 at night, I gotta water it down with something. But it's really nice and bold and very, very
Like us.
smooth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're bold and smooth.
So
let's just say if a coffee were to have a beard, this is the coffee.
yeah,
this is the coffee.
It's pretty
I told
good.
you the ideas that I had for if we were to do Barbatus Coffee Company, right? So we would have the Castellanos blend. It would be like an everyday kind of blend, you know, because
kind of like your breakfast blend.
Yes, your breakfast blend. You can make cappuccinos with it.
There you go.
But then,
some people are cringing on the other side of the. They're cringing at their phones, like, why did he just go there? Anyways, so we're drinking a really good coffee from Nayarit. So shout out to Mexican coffee farmers. And Ivan and I are on day 15 of Exodus 90 now.
You are correct, sir.
So black coffee right now it seems very penitential.
I'm actually black coffee every day. That's how I drink my coffee. Is black. I only ever put sugar, like if I go to, I don't know, Dutch Bros or Starbucks or something, then I'll get like a cold brew with cream. But other than that, black coffee.
Oh, it's funny because cold brew, I just drink it without anything. I don't
really.
I don't.
I mean, I drink it without anything as well. But since I don't know, it's something cold. I want it sweet. So.
But yeah, like, well, if you're not putting sugar on it, yes. Well, the point is, the topic today that we're going to talk about is fasting, which is the second pillar of Lent, and this is the second episode in this series. So, sorry about that. And what I wanted to say, that's one of the things that I have here in my notes, is right now we live in like an age of abundance, right? Everything you can get the groceries delivered to the front of your door. It's instant gratification. Everything is instant gratification. So we live in this kind of world where we can eat any there's an overabundance of things, and I don't think we ever let ourselves feel true hunger.
I guess in all aspects, right? Not just in food.
Yes,
there's like a
instant
gratification with anything. Remember when you had to wait for your show to
a week
be at like a certain time?
You remember what was the thing that you could record when your shows were on
TiVo?
TiVo? Was it TiVo? I was gonna say VCR, but that is not.
You guys are fancier than I was. We had a VCR, which
I mean, I had that too. I thought you were talking about TiVo though.
I guess TiVo.
Yeah, I think TiVo was like
you could record
what started it. Yeah, where people started like piling up shows, if you will, to binge watch later.
Yeah, exactly.
And then kind of like Netflix just like changed everything when they went to streaming.
Binging is
normal. Exactly.
Yeah, binging is a thing now.
Yeah,
just completely the opposite of what
exactly.
we're going to talk about today.
But it's a good point that you were making, right? I mean, society right now, that's the standard, and it's no different with food or any other bodily pleasure, right?
Yeah.
Everything's pretty immediate,
readily
available, and it's just a little too much, and we get to a point where we don't even know when too much is too much.
Yeah. Like, do you ever get angry when other websites that are not Amazon charge you for shipping? You're like, what? $5 for shipping? What is this? And it's not 2-day delivery?
Exactly.
Anyways, we're really, really pampered. So we're going to talk about how to unpamper yourself. But
Louis C.K. had this great bit, and I might edit this out, but if it doesn't fit. But this comedian had this great bit about like when Wi-Fi was first available on a plane, and there's this guy like complaining about it, right? It's like, why is this Wi-Fi so slow? And he's like,
because it's
can
on
you
a
give it a
plane.
second? You're sitting on the chair in
Inside
the
of a
air
tube.
and it's going out to space. Give it a second. So that type of uneasiness with waiting, right? And not having it right now. And yeah, Amazon and Netflix and all the technology has a lot to do with it, because when you have like 4 out of 5 bars on your phone, you're like, why is this text not sending? You know, and stuff like that. So yes, the patience aspect of it has greatly reduced.
Do you remember that episode of The Simpsons when Mo gets like a deep fryer from the military? It says like, and with this deep fryer, I can fry a whole cow in 5 seconds. And Homer's like, but I want it now.
You can't even wait the 5 seconds.
Oh my gosh.
But,
that's funny.
Anywho, so a lot of people say that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, right? Mm-hmm. What if I tell you that's not necessarily true?
What's the most delicious?
Breakfast food is pretty good.
Well, that's debatable.
Well, it's just to make a point, right? That don't necessarily need to eat 3 square meals a day or like eat every couple hours. Like there's a lot of like different diets. And I guess we should probably have started the episodes with this disclaimer. We are not physicians, and any advice or anything that we say in this episode, please consult with your physician first before you try to attempt any of the things that we mentioned in this episode.
We're not dietitians.
We're not dietitians.
If you look at it,
if you see
we're not dietitians.
A picture of Ivan and me, you clearly will see that we are not.
Can I eat this? Sure.
Just a little bit. That is a funny one. But fasting, non-religious fasting has become a thing in the world with intermittent fasting. And I started hearing about like lean gains by Martin Berkhan. And it's like an eating window, like 16 hours of fasting, and then you have 8 hours of eating where you pack like maybe a couple meals in. And that's how I started doing intermittent fasting. And it was pretty good. There's others like the Warrior Diet by Ori Hofmeckler. I'm probably butchering his last name. Where you do 1 meal a day with some fruit and veggies during the day. And one of the ones that I would recommend reading, that's pretty interesting read, is The Complete Guide to Fasting by Dr. Jason Fung, which he promotes like longer periods of fasting. And like there are some doctors that are advocating for fasting for medical and health reasons. But there's also a religious aspect of fasting. Like, I mean, we can talk about how fasting benefits the body. Some of the things that I could find is that it reduces insulin resistance, reduces inflammation, may boost brain function, aids with weight loss, increases growth hormone secretion, and allegedly can reverse type 2 diabetes. And this was one of the things that I was interested in fasting because I was diagnosed pre-diabetic back in like 2019. And it felt so backwards, like the diets that the doctor gave me. It was like all carbs, and I was like, if I am insulin sensitive,
Mhm.
how does adding more glucose into my bloodstream work? And not to say that I went against my doctor, but I
Kind of did.
did. So that's when I read Dr. Jason Fung, and he recommends a low carb, moderate protein, high fat diet with intermittent fasting. So I started doing 16-8, and the first thing that I noticed is I skipped breakfast, and I was thinking better and functioning better when I skipped breakfast, and then I would go until like noon, have a normal lunch meal, try not to eat in between meals, and then have dinner. And it was also around the same time that I was doing Exodus 90, so no eating in between meals. It helped, and I dropped like 30 pounds of weight. But then obviously, you need to continue doing it. It's like a maintenance kind of thing, where if you don't do it, you lose that kind of benefits from it, because there's like a bunch of mechanisms that start happening. Your glycogen levels lower, so they deplete within, I think it's like around the 10-12 hour mark.
Mhm.
And then gluconeogenesis, which is a very big word to say that the liver is drawing fat to produce energy. So that's when, like, the famous word that's around for a while now on the internet, ketosis,
Mhm.
kicks in, and then you start burning your stores of fat, which, if you see me, I have plenty of energy stored in my body.
It's a
And
nice bodega.
yeah. I am the national reserve of energy. If they said, like, who has a few pounds of fat that we can run this generator on, I would gladly volunteer myself.
Yeah.
I know. I offer myself. So I think that fasting for health reasons is something good. Have you fasted for?
Not for health reasons necessarily.
Okay.
But I know that it's been more mainstream in the last few years, right? With the
I think that's a good way to describe it. Like, it has become more mainstream,
which is good. And it's like everything. I'm not a big diets kind of guy. By looking at me, you would see the same thing.
Like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that guy doesn't like diet at all. But yeah, the fasting I've mostly incorporated it by way of faith.
Which is funny, because in one of the things that I read is, like, you ask a kid, if you want to lose weight, what to do, and the kid will say, don't eat, right?
Mhm.
And it's true. If you don't eat, you'll most likely lose weight. Anywho, let's just say that right now I'm not pre-diabetic. I still have a lot of pounds that I can lose, but we're getting there. We're getting there.
That's good.
Okay, so let's do second gear and go into religious fasting. And I have, I was reading this other book on it that I've been looking for the longest time. I even asked Caro to see if she could find it in one of those, like, obscure websites.
Yeah.
Where she gets vintage books.
Yeah.
Black market.
Of books.
What is the name of that thing that you guys go every year?
The VNSA sale, which we were bummed because of COVID. It's going to be postponed till further notice. Hopefully they have it like during
how much money do you
put?
I know that is a very personal question, but
what, for books?
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe $100, $150.
And how many books does that buy you?
I don't know, like a cart full. I don't know. I don't think we've counted them.
Okay.
You just like pile books into a cart, like a shopping cart.
Yeah.
And I mean, they range right from $1 to $3 or whatever. I think $3 is like the most expensive. You can also buy like really expensive, like collector sets and stuff like that, but for like a fraction of the cost. But VNSA is great. We've been going consistently for the past, I want to say, 4 years.
Mm.
And yeah, so we're gonna miss it this year because of the
Yeah.
pandemic.
R.I.P. Anyways, To Love Fasting: A Monastic Experience by Adalbert de Vogue. He's French.
Of course.
He is or was, I don't know if he's still alive. If you know, let us know. He is a
Have him call in to see if he's still alive.
Father Adalbert. Let us know. He's a hermit. He's a Benedictine monk. He lived in community for like 30 something odd years, and then he got to the point where he's like, I can be on my own and just dedicate myself to prayer and all of the other things that he still had, like several uh, apostolates and manual work that he had to do. But he recounts in this book how he would only eat one meal at 6 p.m. every day. And a few other things that I want to read from the book. He says, I have easily verified the connection established between the ancients between the first two principal vices of gluttony and lust, and consequently between the corresponding disciplines of fasting and chastity. Which I thought it was super insightful for, what we were talking about at the beginning of this conversation. Sorry about that. I think that gluttony is very predominant today because we use binge watching for consuming television, and you can binge watch podcasts or whatever you want to binge watch, and there's no like sense of self-control. So there's this gluttony about the things that we have available for us, and lust, which I think is something that every man struggles with to some extent or another.
Mm-hmm.
And the antidote to it would be fasting and chastity, which, if you, no matter your state in life, you should strive to be chaste. And I know that it sounds super old school, but that's what we are about in this podcast. We are three old school guys telling you how to do that. Anywho, last quote from To Love Fasting. He goes on and says, I think the cause is that certain mastery of the primordial appetite, which is eating, permits a greater mastery of the other manifestations of the libido and aggressiveness. It is as if the man who fasts were more himself, in possession of his true identity, and less dependent on exterior objects and the impulses they arouse in him. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
To read this, and I think this was written 1990s or something like that. It is very sobering, and also it gives me a lot of hope as to how can we remedy those kind of things that most people struggle with. Is like skip a meal. Sounds very simple, but I don't know. What do you guys think?
I mean, yeah, skip a meal. Maybe don't watch that basketball game. Don't watch The Office. Things like that. Things that we've been talking about since the beginning is that culture today, like it's you can binge anything you want. You can have everything at your fingertips, pretty much. I want Jack in the Box. I'm gonna do Uber Eats, DoorDash. Boom, it gets to my front door in what, 30, 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, to kind of to kind of have that in mind where, what can I do? Especially when Lent comes around, is, we always hear about like, oh, we have to, give up one thing, give up chocolate for Lent. Well, you've been here since you were a kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what if it's deeper than that? What if it's, don't watch the game. Don't take cold showers every day instead of, taking warm showers, things like that. So it doesn't, fasting doesn't always just have to be about food.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. So I was hearing a reflection today, because when we recorded this, it was the daily gospel was about the John and the Pharisees. It's Mark 2:18-22. The disciples of John and the Pharisees were accustomed to fast. People came to Jesus and objected, "Why did the disciples of John and the disciples of the Pharisees fast, but your disciples do not fast?" So I thought I was kind of like in keeping with the theme that we're
does
gonna.
it call for the gospel for today? Oh, that's
So
providential, guys.
yeah, and I started like reflecting on it and thinking about it, and like I said, we listened to another great podcast, Catholic Daily Reflections, which we'll share with you guys in the show notes. But there's like a lot of good tidbits, so none of this is from me. I'm just passing on information. But he says fasting helps to strengthen the will against the disordered fleshly temptations and helps to bring purity to one's soul. So it'll come a day when we will no longer need fasting.
Mm-hmm.
And that day is when we're standing in front of God, right?
Yeah, like you don't eat in heaven.
Yeah, there will be no need
There's
for
no tacos in heaven.
Well, hang on. That's a very important
question. The theologians can chime in.
If there's no tacos in heaven, then what's the point, guys?
Yeah.
Well, but you have God, which is
that's true. God is better than
we need
tacos.
a T-shirt that says God is better than tacos.
Exactly.
Bro, that's like a perfect merch idea for Don Taco. That's actually brilliant.
Exactly.
Thank you.
So it says, it's like it'll come a day when we won't need fasting or any other form of penance, for that matter, because we will be in the presence of God, in eternity. And as Catholics, that's what we strive for, right? I mean, we want to.
Absolutely.
That's the end goal for us. But while we are here in this world, we will struggle, and we will fall and we will lose our way. One of the best ways of returning to Christ, right? That's one of the best spiritual practices is fasting and prayer actually combined.
All right. Yeah. I think that's the key that I wanted to get to at some point. But I think that fasting on its own, it's dieting.
Mm-hmm.
Fasting and prayer, and that's pretty much like the spirit of Lent, right? We are going into the desert with Jesus in this 40 days. And this mortification of the flesh is going to be what allows us to rejoice even more so Easter Sunday when he rises from the dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that you said really made me think of what Deanna told me the other day, because I've been back in trying to fast. Now I try to do 18 hours and then an eating window of 6 hours. She says that I'm more patient with the kids when I'm fasting. And I thought that was a very interesting correlation of the effects of fasting.
Because you thought that you'd be angry and more.
Yeah, you would think that you would be cranky.
Yeah, like cranky and like, I haven't eaten anything, so
right.
You're gonna take it out on somebody else,
right? Yeah. And that was the other thing. It's just like, you're really good at this because if you are cranky or in a bad mood or whatever, you don't show it. I don't know how you do it. And I was like, well, I drink a lot of coffee and and green tea. But I think that self-discipline of and not saying that I'm like, the best at it or a master of fasting. My personal experience is that in the mornings I can think better, and then yes, I get hungry, but I know a few tricks, like drinking seltzer, and it helps with that. Drinking black coffee, drinking green tea. It's kind of cheating, if you just do a water fast, but that's pretty extreme. But accompany it with prayer. If you fast in the morning and maybe you have someone that you want to offer your fast for, you think about that person when you get your hunger pangs.
If you also think about it, like fasting in a way is a gift, the fact that Jesus fasted in the desert, like he, the fact that he mirrored that, like not mirrored, that's not the word that I'm looking for. The fact that he showed that, and then we can mirror that. We can see that, and we can like, oh, like it's a gift, for us to be able to do that. Like we want to feel closer to the Lord, and try to get away from all these distractions from the world. Fasting and prayer, man, like it just goes hand in hand,
Yeah.
It's
beautiful. and it also adds like space. And I think we touched on it on another episode where we say you got to empty yourself of worldly things so more God can fit in your soul.
Absolutely.
Right. And coming back to today's gospel, it's they're kind of like reprimanding him, right? Why don't your followers, your disciples fast? And he says, can the wedding guests fast while the bridegroom is with them? Like there's no need for them to fast because they're like with the bridegroom essentially, right? And then in closing that gospel, it says, likewise, no one pours new wine into old wineskins. Otherwise, the wine will burst the skins, and both the wine and the skins are ruined. Rather, new wine is poured into fresh skins. That's what we do when we're fasting and praying, especially, again, correlating it to Lent, which we're, I guess, in now as you listen to this. Fasting stretches our soul, right, to make more room so more of God can abide in our heart and our soul.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And that's to be able to receive him as like the new wine, right? We want our soul to be like a fresh wineskin.
Yeah.
Right? We want it to burst, but because God is just like, it doesn't fit in there anymore.
We want the cup to overflow.
Exactly.
I like that. Fasting stretches our soul.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I've never heard that.
That's from, again, I want to attribute it to that podcast.
We're stealing material from other podcasts.
We're sharing it, not stealing it, because we don't steal. That's true. That's against.
We're borrowing.
Yeah,
that's a sin. Okay, so let's go into some technicalities about Lent and fasting. So there is a difference between fasting and abstinence. And according to the USCCB, anyone between the ages of 18 and 59 should both abstain from meat, that would be the abstinence part of it, on Ash Wednesday, and fast on Ash Wednesday and Good Friday. So let's just start there and say that there are only 2 days that the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops requires us to fast. And that would be Ash Wednesday and Good Friday, which are kind of like the bookends of Lent. And this fast would consist of eating 1 full meal as well as 2 smaller meals that together are not equal to a full meal. So just a brief example, I would normally do like a cup of coffee for breakfast, a piece of fruit for lunch, and some fish and vegetables for dinner, or something like that. But not because that is the minimum requirement means that you stop there. It used to be that traditionally every Wednesday and Friday would be days of penance in the Universal Church. Do you know why Wednesday?
I don't.
Because that was the day that Judas decided to betray Jesus. I know, you're shaking your head right now. Qué hombre tan despreciable. Anyways, and Friday, because that's the day that Jesus died on the cross. So, abstinence, no meat, no chicken, no pork. You can do fish. You can do shellfish. Or you can go meatless, vegetarian, vegan. It doesn't mean sometimes like we do like fish tacos and it doesn't feel as penitential, because they're fish tacos are
they
delicious.
Are tacos.
They are tacos, and tacos are amazing. But the point of it is that, again, we have that hunger, and I think that feeling that physical hunger should also translate into our spiritual hunger for God, and how to cling to God more. When you're having those hunger pangs and you're like, I really need food to keep me going. That same way we should be, Lord, I need you.
Fully dependent.
Oh, I need you every hour.
Yeah.
I see what you did there.
Thank you.
There was I have a quick story about that. When you're feeling those hunger pains, like you said, we were invited to collaborate with a youth group back in our hometown in Nogales about maybe 2 years ago. This was a part of my journey where I was just like, I'm just gonna say yes to whatever God puts in my road, right? So somebody called and asked for like something, like to serve or help. I would be yes. I was a very busy year, because the Lord, there was no shortage of requests. Praise be to God. But both Caro, my wife, and I, since we have the background of youth group, we were asked if we could help the youth group with putting together like the Pascua Juvenil. That's what it's called. Like youth Easter celebration, if you want to translate it. And part of that, it's a 3-day kind of like retreat, but the kids go back home, so they don't. It's not like a full retreat. And then part of that celebration is that you do the live Stations of the Cross, right, with members from the community and whatnot. And I was selected to be like the soldier, like the main soldier that is leading the procession to Calvary, essentially. And that was the first time that I fasted like completely. I had never done it before. I wanted to offer it and say I will not eat anything for 24 hours.
Not even liquids?
Just water.
Okay.
Yeah, just water. And around 4:00 when we're doing the live Stations of the Cross, because we process for about 1.5 miles, right, from starting point A, and we end up at the church. And it was about 4:00, and I was really feeling it, on top of like all the activity with the kids, games, and now the procession, and being kind of like in character. It was pretty surreal, because it kind of like transported me to that day. I was like really feeling it, and I turn back and I see the kid who's playing Jesus. He's like really into it as well, and everything came flashing to me as if I was there, right? It's like, if I'm feeling this right now, right? Well, how did Jesus feel that day in this particular spot? So that kind of gave me like a brand new perspective about the pain that I was feeling in my stomach, because I was feeling my
Yeah, the
stomach like
hunger is
crunch.
real.
And so cut to about an hour and a half later, because we ended and then mass started. So after mass, right? So I receive Holy Communion, and I was like satisfied, fully satisfied
Wow.
with the host. It was so powerful. I had never felt that, and I didn't eat anything again until the following morning, breakfast. But when I consumed the host, I was like, the pains went away. I've got energy back and everything. So it was, for me, it was really, really um, powerful, the way that God nourished me, when I needed it.
Right.
And it was, again, I don't think I've ever done it again, to fast the full day, but that's something that's etched in there.
This is gonna sound like a humble brag, but the last couple of years, what I've been trying to do is go from eating dinner on Holy Thursday and then go without food Friday and Saturday and eat breakfast on Easter Sunday. It's kind of like a 60-hour fast, which is not advisable if you have never done it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend it to someone who is not used to fasting, but it's definitely spiritually, I think that it was really good for me to really get into that. It's kind of like a little mud cake to Jesus, you know. You know how your kid makes you a mud cake, and it's like this little offering that they give you.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this is really nice. I feel like that is my mud cake to God.
That's beautiful.
When you were saying about how you felt completely satisfied when you were fasting, and then you felt completely satisfied once you received communion, it made me think of Saint Maximilian Kolbe and how he was put into a cell with. Do you remember how many men were in the cell?
I don't remember how many men, but it was
Just say like a handful of men.
A handful of men. I think a little bit more than 10, if I remember correctly.
And they were starving them to death, right? I don't know how many days he was in there, but he would lead the man into singing hymns to God, probably saying mass, I'm assuming, in the cell, to the point where the German soldiers were like, well, he's not dying.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So they went and gave him a lethal injection. So how much can God sustain you without food if you are clinging to him? And another point that I even made about, like, okay, Jesus fasted for 40 days, and 40 days, you're like, that seems excessive. But then I was reading that the longest recorded fast in the world, I think there was this person who fasted for maybe like a year straight, like just taking a vitamin supplement and water, but it was completely monitored by doctors and all of that. It's in the Dr. Jason Fung book. I was like, if someone can live on water for a year, this person was like very, very obese, just to give that caveat. But we can skip a meal and offer that up for our own conversion, for the conversion of someone that is away from the church, for the needs of our family, the holy souls in purgatory, all of these things that we can. We were talking about intercessory prayer. Think about fasting as an extension of your prayer during this Lent. And hopefully some of the things that we have talked about in this episode will motivate you to mortify the flesh a little bit more. And like Ivan said, it doesn't have to be food. It can also be abstaining or fasting from social media or television, the internet, you name it.
Yeah, you know what you have to fast from, right? In terms of like,
Yeah.
and that's the other thing about prayer and becoming more aware, right, of what those elements that you need to guard your soul against. Because if you know you're watching too much TV or spending too much time on the phone or literally eating way too much delectable food or sweets, we each know more or less where we need to pull the reins a little bit. And again, nothing better than Lent to start the practice or up your game. Again, God meets us where we are. Don't think that you have to do, again, the stuff that we're talking about here, or talk about it with somebody in your church, your pastor, your spiritual director, if you have one, and do something that works for you. And always, I think, offering it, right, like Walter said, for a special intention for somebody, will make you follow through and be more consistent, which consistency is always going to be key. And yep, we want to make sure that we're doing our best this Lent.
Final remarks, Ivan?
No, I mean, I think we pretty much covered it. Fasting is a good thing. It is.
Fasting is a good thing.
What's that?
Be joyful.
Exactly. Be joyful. Be, yeah, like it's a great thing for not only for our bodies but for our souls, is to be able to fast. I think I've in the past where, if I was either too into whatever it was, like there was a point in my life where I used to play this video game called Destiny, and I haven't played it in a while. I actually don't have a gaming system anymore, which I miss it, but I don't have it anymore. But anyways, when I was playing, there was times where like at night I would pray and then I would start thinking about the game. And then I would think, okay, I have a problem. Like if I'm praying and I'm thinking about the game, maybe I should cut back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you're praying and then you're thinking about like, I wonder how the Packers are doing. It's probably maybe take a little bit of a break.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking to you, Gustavo. I'm just saying.
Other people from Wisconsin.
Exactly. No, so I mean, fasting, it's good for our souls, and the fact that we can imitate Jesus in doing so, it's a beautiful gift.
And you guys touched on a good thing too. I think Jose Maria Escrivá said it right. I mean, when you fast, don't be like
What's
down.
In the gospel, right?
Huh?
Do not look sad.
Exactly. So like something also, like wash your face, be in your best presentation.
Yes.
Don't look like you're fasting, essentially. Right, because we want to make sure that that's a joyful experience, because we're, like, again, stretching the soul and making new wineskins, essentially.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Stretch your soul this Lent. Thank you for listening to this episode of Barbatus Catholic Podcast, the show where three Mexican dads talk about faith, life, and culture. If you like the show, please consider subscribing to the podcast, sharing it on social media, leaving a rate and review on Apple Podcasts, and recommending it to your friends and family. And if you didn't like it, well, just keep it to yourself and let others make their own mistakes. You can follow us on Instagram at Barbatus Catholic Podcast. You can send us an email at hello@barbatuscatholicpodcast.com. On the web, we are at www.barbatuscatholicpodcast.com, where you'll find the show notes for this episode and more. Blessed Solanus Casey.
Pray for us.
Pray for us.
Until the next time.